Hello everybody, and welcome to the Fortean Slip Bedtime Stories. Tonight, one man's encounter with the sheep squatch. I grew up in Gallipolis, across the Ohio River from Point Pleasant. In high school, I found an old scrapbook of my mother's with several dozen clippings on the Mothman. I was fascinated that something neat had happened so close to the sleepy little town I loved, and I was hooked. I had to know more. It didn't take long for me to find the Mothman prophecies, and I read it cover to cover. I lost interest somewhat when I began to date and do the other things high school kids do. However, when I returned from a 7-year tour in the United States Navy, I rediscovered my interest in the Mothman. I decided that I would use the skills the Navy had taught me to try and disprove the Mothman stories, my logic being that if I tried seriously and diligently to disprove the stories and failed, then I would have strengthened their credibility. My new hobby took me into the woods and hollers around the TNT area and to the homes of what witnesses who were alive and willing to talk about what they'd seen. While I'd find a great many points of interest in my investigation, among them some interesting questions focusing on an active naval base in Point Pleasant, which seems to have no official purpose or staff, I was not prepared for what I encountered along a creek bank north of Bethel Church Road. I was walking the creek bank trying to run down some tips provided to me by an acquaintance at a UFO investigation group who I considered a marginal flake, but which seemed to have some credibility in the form of "what are these guys really up to" venue. As I walked the creek, I heard something large break through the brush ahead of me and I froze. Logic told me that it was at worst a large dog or even a stray cow, as there is very little in the way of predators in Mason County. What I saw emerge from the brush was a large brownish-white creature. Its fur looked dirty and matted as if the animal did very little in the line of self-grooming. I can't be sure if I was looking at a dirty white animal or a brownish animal with a white undercoat. It was late in the fall, so it makes sense that it might be putting on a winter coat. The creature moved on all fours as it breached the brush line and knelt to drink from the creek. Its front limbs, the only limbs I clearly saw, ended in what were markedly paw-like hands. Its head was long and pointed like a canine's, and it had large horns, not antlers, but single-point horns. I shrunk back into the brush and watched, afraid to stay and afraid to run. It drank for a few minutes, then crossed the creek and continued on across towards Sand Hill Road. When I was sure it was gone, I turned and ran as fast as I could back toward the pond where I parked.